Alright guys, my big plan to make this video 8 minutes long is to draw everything out. So today's video is gonna be about wow, I tried to draw Vietnam, but I can't do it. My thing is about the Vietnam War. But more specifically, the use of this herbicide they called Agent Orange, because it was orange. And basically, actually, before I even get into that, let's explain more about the Vietnam War. So y'all know that it was fought in a lot of jungle stuff, and basically that gave the enemies called the Viet Cong, that's the enemy forces. I'm drawing trees if you can't figure out already. This is really bad. Wow. But basically, it was super forested and stuff, and so you have American soldiers. They're pulling up to the battlefield. And they got their weapons and stuff, but the Viet Cong know the terrain a lot better, and they know the trees a lot better. So basically, these guys have an advantage the entire time that they're fighting. And not even that, I went to like this weird rabbit hole of like the booby traps the Viet Cong used to make for these American soldiers. Some of them are kind of nasty, really nasty. So like one of them, like imagine it's the ground and then like a divot's here, and then for a comparison, I guess this is like a human, I think that's the right like size. And then they would like make these like wooden spikes, put them at the bottom here, and they would cover this top with like bamboo, so it looks like it's solid ground. And then they would cover the top with leaves like this. So like if you're this dude, you don't see any of these spikes obviously, because that would give it away. So now imagine you're like an American soldier, and now you're walking across, and then bam, you're in the spikes, and now it hurts. And what it actually looks like is extremely gruesome, because like you could have your boot and like the spike is literally coming out of it, and it would be like blood gushing. It's actually crazy. And what these Viet Cong people would do, it's actually nuts. So obviously getting a spike through your boot is like pretty bad, but even worse is like the infection. So these guys were like, hey, let's make the spikes even worse. Let's put like, some people put like poison on them, and then even worse, sometimes they would put like poop. So they would like rub poop all over the spikes. So not only was it like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited by this news. Not only would you like be humiliated by falling in this, you would stink horribly, and it would cause like death by infection. But that death would take a long time. So like when you go to these camps and stuff, you know, there's all these people taking care of like the sick people, and that just took a lot of resources and a lot of time. And so like injuring them and sending them here was a lot better than like shooting them in the head once and killing them immediately. Like without all the trees that were in the way, all those traps are not possible at all. So that's why everyone decided, well, maybe not everyone, but the government or the war people decided, hey, let's get tons, like millions of gallons of this stuff called Agent Orange, which is basically an herbicide. So then they would take these planes, and now out dumps a ton of Agent Orange, and then it gets rid of all the foliation pretty much. The trunks obviously of the trees are still there because that's a little hard to get rid of, but apparently it resulted in like a 70% increase in horizontal visibility, and then like in vertical visibility it was like 90% increase. So pretty big deal. And so that heavily contributed towards the effectiveness of the American soldiers. So these guys are real happy that Agent Orange is being deployed by planes. Now the thing is, while it was really good for, wow, I tried to draw a thumbs up. Let's try that again. Well, it was really good for like the American soldiers, and it increased efficiency. It was not good for everyone else that was in Vietnam, basically, because there's also a lot of health effects when it comes to like this Agent Orange stuff, because you know it's not really good for you. It kills trees. It's probably not good for anything else living either. So what happened was apparently like, well, first of all, they would fly this stuff over like farmlands and rice fields, and that junk would just be completely obliterated. So you like, that's not cool. I mean, there's farmers there making a living off of that. And now they're sad. But even more importantly, it's people were starting to have babies, and those babies would have like birth defects. So maybe they have like a missing arm or something. I'm not exactly sure what it ended up looking like, but a lot of them had birth defects. Something like some crazy number, like 4 million children over time had like birth defects. it's actually nuts. I think it's pretty obvious what kind of ethical situation we're looking at here. Basically, we're looking at, should the US military have deployed barrels of Agent Orange into the battlefield with all the guys pointing guns, right? I'm gonna draw more. Now that's the action being tested here. Who are the actors? Let's say the army general who made this decision. He's like, hey, let's do this thing. I don't know if that's actually what happened, but someone in command is making this decision, so that's the ethical standard. Let's get into that. So basically there's something in Kantian physics, the ethics, I think it's called. It's called the categorical imperative. There's three formulas. Basically, the first one is the universal formula. If you're gonna do something to somebody, that's basically saying you're completely okay with it, like being a universal law. So if I punch you, oh, that hurts, but then you should be okay with me punching you as well. And if that's the case, then cool, what you did with is ethical. The second formula is about humanity. So basically, he uses the terms means and ends. Basically, means is how you do something, and the end is the purpose. So all humans are ends in and of themselves because humans have value. And so you don't ever want to make a human only a mean, right? That's basically slavery, or like using people, and that's a bad thing because everyone has humanity. So you want to make sure that each person is the ends. Like the goal should be to serve these people, not to use them just as like robots or whatever. And then the third law is about, they call it kingdom of ends. So you got to make sure that whatever principle of action you're taking is not in like logical conflict, because we live in a society and it's not like we can just live by ourselves alone all the time, right? If your universal rule for punching people was okay because you're okay with it, well, that's not really going to work out because other people are not okay with getting punched even, you know what I'm saying? Those are the three ethics. So now we look at our standards. There's two ways to go about this. Number one, you could argue that due to the with the universal formula, later the US actually banned the use of herbicides, so like no more Agent Orange basically, which is interesting because these guys are the same people that deployed it over Vietnam. So clearly, like, the US didn't actually want like any of the herbicides to be used against them, which breaks this universal formula, which means, yeah, they literally admitted that what they did over here was unethical. So boom, that's pretty simple. Okay, another way, let's argue in the other direction. Number two, humanity. Consider these American soldiers, right? These guys are on the battlefield every day, and not only are they like getting maybe not absolutely destroyed, but I mean there's trees everywhere. It's helping the Viet Cong, and they're experiencing a ton of like crazy traps that are like scaring them psychologically and whatever. These guys have like friends and families back home that they want to go see, and so it would not be cool to just make battle hard for them because they want to go back home, right? That's treating their humanity. These guys have personal goals and interests. What are those interests? To go back home. I'll draw home, like boom. And so let's go send them back home. How can we do that easier? Well, by making battle easier, by getting rid of all the forestation that is making all this a gigantic mess. So now they can shoot the Viet Cong within, what was it, 70% increase in horizontal sight. There you go. So now we're treating these guys not as only our fighting robots, but wow, these guys want to go back home safely and alive. And how can we do that? By doing this. So the golden question, was this ethical? To be honest, I think it's pretty obvious. My opinion is no. There's a lot of bad things that happen as a result of using, Agent Orange. I think greatest of all is like the child defects thing. That's actually pretty crazy. Also, not even just the child defects, but apparently a bunch of people after the war, as they got old, they had like cancer or something. Like it was an increased risk of stuff, and they had to be like, medically treated, and it was just like extremely common. And there was just a lot of bad things. Plus, like destroying a ton of trees for warfare is like not super cool to begin with anyway, because it's like not great for the environment, the livelihood. I mean, farms were being destroyed too. So I understand that like it helped the war, but we didn't. I don't even think we won in the end anyway. Yeah, it's clearly no. The bad outweighs the good in this case. So that's why, according to ethical standards provided, No, this was not ethical. I hope you liked this video. Yeah.